Hello and welcome to another Nimble video tutorial. If you remember a previous video tutorial, I talked about memory management and how Nimble differs from most JavaScript frameworks. And to be honest, the technical explanation of Nimble is not a framework at all. It's really just an IDE prototype tool and a library or runtime that accomplishes everything that I've shown you thus far. Nimble's memory manager is multi-instance, so it allows it to behave like a desktop and run multiple applications on any desktop, and it manages multiple desktops. Today is a special day in that it marks the actual completion of my quality assurance testing of the Nimble framework. I have manually tested every routine in the JavaScript runtime, and most of the videos were for that purpose, to demonstrate the features that I was testing at the time or anything that I thought was cool. But today marks the end of all of the testing that I have done. In the future, the only thing I'm going to do is add live unit tests to the unit test web application so that I can demonstrate all the tests live for any users who are interested in its stability. That being said, let's get on with the show. Today I've got three cool features to show you: menu systems, tab controls, and of course I'm gonna finish it up with a cool multi-instance example or feature that I decided to throw in this week. If you've ever written any native code desktop applications for Windows, tools like VB, Visual Studio had what's called a menu editor. It's just an interface in which you can build the file menu that you would see in the Nimble application by using a list box and indentations to specify submenus and dividing menu items. So by simply inserting items into a list and using indentation to push sub-items, you can create submenus. When this particular file format is saved, at least with the Nimble IDE, it's just a text file that looks exactly like what you see in this list box. When I created the Nimble IDE, I created a parser for this data, which then in turn builds an actual native code drop-down list, or I'm sorry, a native code list interface on any dialog. So once I had that code written in native code, I ported it to JavaScript, and I was able to do the same thing with the nimbleJS platform. So I'll give you a quick look. Let's refresh. Give you a quick look at the Nimble file menu. So I've just created a quick empty dialog. There's 3 buttons on this dialog: one enabled, disabled, and the one that's hidden, but you can't see it, of course. And this is the same exact menu system that exists within the Nimble IDE. It's the same file structure or menu file that was built so that the JavaScript completely mimics the runtime implementation of a file menu. It was put together in a matter of minutes and allows you to include desktop style menu systems within your application. Also when you use native code menus, you can create pop-up menus. So if you were to right click into the area, a pop-up menu would appear. I've also implemented that feature so that when I right click into this what's called the body of the dialog, it will show this edit menu. The beauty of the Nimble design is that any menu, or I'll call it a submenu, that you create in your menu system can be used and displayed as a pop-up menu at any time in your application. So you can, in theory, hide this entire menu and just have your application run on a series of pop-up menus similar to this. So when I'm right-clicking inside the dialog, the pop-up menu shows, and then I can click and it will execute and send that command to the menu router, which is built for you by the Nimble build process. So at any time you can include pop-up menus, right-click menus within your app with simply one line of code. Let's move on along to tabs. So I'm going to open up my project for tabs. Most web developers or most web implementations of a tab is simply just a bunch of, I don't want to call it div buttons that sit at the top of a page that when you click on them, it exposes a new area or a new page. If you come from a desktop native code background, tabs are a little bit different. The tab structure, when you're using native code or old school ActiveX tab, allow you to position the tab buttons top, left, right, bottom, sides, and you can include more tabs dynamically. So it's more like a control rather than just a page navigation. So I decided to implement the ActiveX version of tabs within the Nimble framework because it's very easy to do, to make tab buttons, so to speak. So I wanted to make a full-fledged tab control for this platform. I have an example of my tab controls. So here is the same tab interface. You can, of course, drop controls on each page of the tab. And I have a few that I placed just for testing purposes. The beautiful part about, I guess, the Nimble IDE is how it can resize tabs and contents of tabs by locking the size or relative to the size of the outside dialog. I'm going to start the debug so you can appreciate the control that you have over this Nimble tab control. So by simply changing the tab position of form 1, tab 1 to the bottom left, these tab buttons will move to the bottom left area of the tab, and you will notice how it adjusts. You can control by specifying bottom right, or you can even specify the right bottom, which will push the tab control along the side. Oh, sorry about that. I wanted to give you a good look at the Nimble version of tab controls because, you know, adding tab buttons and controlling the flow of a page is a little bit easier than adding a very dynamic encapsulating tab control. And considering the multi-instance desktop with multi-layering of tabs and multiple dialogues, I think this makes Nimble a very, very robust interface tool for building complex applications for the web. So that brings us to my finale as far as the QA testing goes. And it has to do, like I said, with memory management for the Nimble platform. I've been thinking about this. I had been thinking about this when I first built the memory management prototype in the multi-instance prototype, and I have seen it come to fruition this week. I wasn't going to add any additional code, but when I came up with this tweak, so to speak, or this very small modification, like 3 lines of code and right at the proper place in the runtime, it made all the difference in the world. So in this previous example, we have a simple dialog with a menu system, a couple of buttons. And in this example, I have 4 virtual desktops. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put start desktop 2. I'm going to start an instance and push that instance here. I'm going to start desktop 4 and start an app instance and put it here. Well, we'll put it up here. Okay, so there's nothing on desktop 3. If I start the console, I'm able, with this new modification, I was able to create the ability to launch applications in the background. This ability I was hoping that it would work perfectly, and I was very, very impressed that it did after a little modification. So if you were technically on desktop 1, which I'm going to switch to now, and if I wanted to launch an additional application on desktop 2, which we remember we already have at least one there showing, you can launch applications in the background and execute them with the JS launch on desktop command. This is very similar to the launch command that's used by Nimble to start any application. Similar when you click it here. It just has one extra parameter so that you can specify, or 2 extra parameters, I'm sorry, so you can specify the desktop that the application will launch, which is just a JavaScript file, and the position of the starting dialog. So it will allow you to adjust the size and position of an app on the destination desktop. So in this case, we're going to start this application at position 1010, and it's going to be large at 700 by 400 pixels. So if I run that command, the application has started on the other desktop and should be there when we get there, simply by switching to the desktop by pressing Alt-2. You'll see the application is started, it's fully functional, and it behaves like any other application for Nimble. We'll go back to desktop 1 and we'll repeat that same command on desktop 3. And just to show there are no tricks, let's change the size to 300 by 700. That might be too large. 600. And we'll move it over some. So on desktop 3, we're going to start the same application in a new location and a different size. So we click on desktop 1 and switch to 3. And we'll see the new application started and functional. If your applications are larger than, are large as you're trying to start them, you will want to say, show a please wait or something to inform the user that you're doing something. However, I did design for a threaded launch of applications that could semi-parse or parse with a forgiving nature as the new application starts on the new desktop. It's not tested, but it's written. I'm not gonna push it today. I just wanted to show you the ability to launch desktop applications both on your current desktop or on background desktops to allow for a seamless transition between applications and user focus. That's it for online QA testing. Nimble is good as gold. I hope you enjoyed the show, and thanks for watching.